I used to think I was pretty smart with money. I mean, I wasn't racking up credit card debt or buying designer handbags I couldn't afford. But when I actually sat down and looked at where my paycheck was disappearing to each month, I realized I was hemorrhaging cash on stuff that wasn't making my life better. Not even a little bit. So I did something that felt radical at the time. I made a list of 9 things I was going to stop buying completely. Not cut back on, stop. And honestly, that decision changed everything about my financial situation. I'm Sienna, and if you're tired of wondering where all your money goes every month, you might want to stick around for this one. Let's start with something that made my bookworm friends think I'd lost my mind. Physical books. Now, before you come for me, I'm not saying reading is a waste. Actually, it's the opposite. Investing in knowledge is one of the smartest things you can do. But here's what I figured out. I was buying hardcovers like they were going out of style. And most of them? I'd read once and they'd sit on my shelf collecting dust, looking impressive to exactly nobody because we're all on Zoom calls now anyway. The Libby app became my best friend. Free library books on my phone. Zero cost. For books I knew I'd reference repeatedly, the ones that actually deserved shelf space, I'd get a Kindle version or buy a used copy. My rule became simple. If it's not going to be one of my top 10 favorites of all time, it doesn't get to take up physical space in my apartment. The money I saved? Hundreds of dollars a year that I redirected into investments that actually grew in value instead of just gathering dust. Then there's the car situation. I see people driving brand new vehicles off the lot, and all I can think about is that immediate 10% hit they just took. Gone, vanished. The second those wheels hit the street outside the dealership, it's like setting a pile of cash on fire, except you also get to make monthly payments for the privilege. I started buying used, not ancient beaters held together with hope and duct tape, but quality used vehicles that someone else already absorbed the depreciation on. And you know what's wild? The difference in actual driving experience between a 2-year-old car and a brand new one is basically zero. Same features, same reliability for the most part, fraction of the cost. I took what I would have spent on new car payments and put it into index funds. In a few years, those investments might actually buy me that luxury car, except I won't need a loan to do it. Travel souvenirs almost seem wholesome compared to some spending habits, right? Wrong. I used to come back from every trip with bags full of trinkets, fridge magnets, shot glasses, those little decorative plates that serve no actual purpose. My apartment looked like a tourist trap threw up in it. Each item represented money spent in the moment that brought me approximately zero joy 6 months later. So I switched to digital memories. I journal about my trips. I vlog the experiences. Sounds cheesy maybe, but here's the thing. When I want to remember that amazing sunset in Santorini, I can pull up the video I took and actually relive the moment. That ceramic donkey I almost bought would have just reminded me I spent 30 euros on a ceramic donkey. The shift saved me easily a couple $100 per trip, and my place doesn't look like a tchotchke warehouse anymore. Now let's talk about tech upgrades, because this one hit different. I was that person refreshing Apple's website every September, ready to pre-order whatever marginal improvement they'd made to the Apple Watch. New iPhone? Obviously I needed it. The camera was 0.3% better. Revolutionary, clearly. Then I actually stopped and asked myself a question that felt almost offensive at first. Did last year's upgrade make me happier? Like, genuinely, measurably happier? The answer was uncomfortable. Not really. My watch from 2 years ago still tracked my steps. My phone still took great photos. I was spending hundreds, sometimes over $1,000, chasing a feeling that lasted approximately 48 hours before becoming my new normal. The tech companies have this down to a science. They've figured out exactly how to make you feel like you're missing out. But you're not. You're just missing out on spending money you could be investing instead. Here's one that sounds obvious but trips up so many people. Sales, the 30% off signs, the limited time offers, the Black Friday madness. I used to think I was winning by snagging deals. Saved $30 on this, got half off that. Except I was buying things I didn't need in the first place. If you spend $70 on something that's 30% off, you didn't save $30. You spent $70. This is basic math, but somehow the thrill of a deal short-circuits our brains. The sale isn't there to help you save money. It's there to make you spend money you wouldn't have spent otherwise. I started asking one simple question before any purchase, sale, or not. Would I buy this at full price? If the answer was no, I didn't buy it at the sale price either. The shift in these first few areas alone freed up thousands of dollars annually. But I was just getting started. There were bigger patterns in my spending that needed to change. Things I'd been doing for years without questioning whether they actually made sense. The kind of expenses that feel normal because everyone else is doing them too. One expense I'd normalized was my morning coffee ritual. Not just any coffee, the specific oat milk latte with an extra shot from the cafe near my apartment. $7. Every single day, sometimes twice if I'd had a rough morning. I genuinely believed this was a reasonable cost of being a functional adult. Everyone did it, right? The math eventually forced me to confront reality. $7 times 5 workdays is $35 weekly. That's $140 monthly, over $1,600 annually, on coffee. My brain immediately jumped to defense mode. But I need it. I deserve it. It's only $7. Except it wasn't just the coffee. It was the pastry I'd grab because I was already there. The occasional sandwich at lunch from the same place. Before I knew it, my cafe habit was costing me close to $4,000 a year. $4,000 that could have been working for me instead of disappearing into espresso shots. I didn't go cold turkey. That's miserable and unsustainable. Instead, I bought a decent coffee maker. Not some fancy espresso machine, just something that made coffee I actually enjoyed drinking. My morning routine shifted from a 20-minute cafe stop to 5 minutes at home. The coffee cost me maybe 50 cents per cup. Same caffeine, same start to my day, different bank account balance at month's end. Speaking of food, restaurants became another area I had to examine honestly. I wasn't going to Michelin-starred places every weekend, just normal dinners out. Appetizer, entree, drink, tip. 60, 70 bucks. 3 times a week because cooking felt like too much effort after work. Again, the math told a story I didn't want to hear. 3 dinners weekly at $70 each is over $10,000 annually. $10,000. For food I'd forget about the next day. I started meal prepping on Sundays. Sounds boring. Sounds like something people post about on Instagram to prove how disciplined they are. But here's what actually happened. I'd spend 2 hours cooking, maybe $60 on groceries, and I'd have lunches and dinners for most of the week. The food was better than the mediocre pasta I'd order out of convenience. I actually knew what was in it. And I saved roughly $8,000 that year. $8,000 from just being slightly more intentional about meals. Then there was the gym membership I'd been paying for since college. $85 monthly for a place I visited maybe twice a week if I was being generous. Some months I didn't go at all, but the charge kept hitting my account like clockwork. I'd convinced myself I needed it. The equipment, the classes, the atmosphere. Reality check. I didn't need any of that. I needed to move my body regularly, which I could do in my apartment or outside for free. Bodyweight exercises, running, YouTube workout videos that were somehow more effective than wandering around a gym taking selfies between sets. Canceling that membership freed up over $1,000 yearly. Clothing deserves its own conversation because this one sneaks up on you differently. I wasn't buying designer pieces, just regular stores. Target, H&M, Zara, a shirt here, pants there. It's only 20 bucks. Except I was doing this constantly. New season, new styles, new reasons to buy things I didn't actually need. My closet was packed with clothes I'd worn once or never. Tags still attached on some items. I'd somehow convinced myself I had nothing to wear while owning 60 shirts. The shift here wasn't about buying less, it was about buying better. I started investing in quality pieces that lasted. A good pair of jeans costs more up front but doesn't fall apart after 10 washes. A well-made jacket lasts years instead of 1 season. I owned fewer items but actually wore everything I had. The cost per wear dropped dramatically, and I stopped having that nothing-to-wear panic despite a full closet. Beauty treatments were another silent wealth drain. Monthly nail appointments, eyelash extensions every few weeks, hair color touch-ups. Each one seemed reasonable in isolation. $40 here, $60 there. Together they were costing me close to $3,000 annually. Did I enjoy having nice nails? Sure. Did I enjoy it $3,000 worth? That question changed everything. I learned to do my own nails, not perfectly, not Instagram-worthy, but good enough that I didn't feel like I was walking around with neglected hands. The eyelash extensions went entirely. Turns out mascara still exists and costs approximately 97% less. I found a hairstylist who charged less but did equally good work. I just had to drive 15 minutes further. These weren't massive sacrifices. They were tiny adjustments that added up to serious money. The pattern across all these changes was the same. I'd normalized expenses because everyone around me had normalized them too. Coffee culture, dining out constantly, gym memberships we don't use, fast fashion cycles. We treat these things as necessities when they're actually choices. Expensive choices that compound over time into the difference between building wealth and wondering where all your money went. Insurance was another area I'd been overpaying without realizing it. I had the same car insurance for years, just auto-renewing every 6 months, never shopped around, never questioned whether I was getting a good deal. Spent one afternoon comparing quotes online and found coverage that was essentially identical for 40% less. That's $600 back in my pocket annually for literally 2 hours of research. Same thing with phone plans. I was paying $90 monthly for unlimited everything when I barely used half my data. Switched to a cheaper plan with slightly less data that I still never fully used. Saved another $400 yearly. These weren't dramatic lifestyle changes. They were just paying attention instead of operating on autopilot. Subscriptions deserved their own audit because those small monthly charges are designed to be forgettable. Streaming services I didn't watch. Apps I'd signed up for during a free trial and forgotten to cancel. That meditation app I used twice. Magazine subscriptions that went straight to recycling. I went through my credit card statement line by line and canceled everything I wasn't actively using. Freed up another $70 monthly, which doesn't sound like much until you multiply it by 12 and realize you just found $840 you were throwing away. The bigger realization wasn't about any single expense. It was the cumulative effect of mindless spending on things I'd convinced myself were normal. Death by 1,000 subscriptions, bankruptcy by brunch, the slow bleed of not paying attention. Here's what nobody tells you about cutting expenses. It's not actually about deprivation. It's about getting honest with yourself about what you value versus what you've been programmed to think you should value. I thought I valued having fresh flowers in my apartment every week. Turns out I valued the idea of being the kind of person who has fresh flowers. Once I admitted that, the $40 monthly became easy to redirect. Same with gym memberships. I had convinced myself I was a person who goes to the gym at 6 in the morning. I had an entire identity built around this fictional version of myself. The gym charged me $50 monthly to maintain this delusion. I went maybe twice. That's $300 annually to feel slightly guilty while walking past the building. I canceled it and started doing free YouTube workouts at home. Went from twice monthly to 4 times weekly because the barrier to entry disappeared. Travel souvenirs deserve their own conversation because this is where I was hemorrhaging money without even realizing it. Every trip meant bringing back tangible proof I'd been somewhere. Magnets, shot glasses, those little decorative plates. I had an entire shelf dedicated to reminders of places I'd been. Cost me probably $200 per trip in junk that collected dust. Now I take photos. I keep a digital travel journal. Sometimes I vlog bits of the experience. The memories are just as vivid, possibly more so because I actually engaged with the place instead of shopping for trinkets. My apartment has less clutter, my bank account has more money. I remember the experiences better because I wasn't focused on acquiring things. Tech upgrades were perhaps my most embarrassing money drain. I had the newest iPhone every single year. Not because my current one stopped working, not because I needed better features, because having the latest model felt important somehow. Same with my Apple Watch. I upgraded annually like clockwork, convincing myself each incremental improvement justified the cost. Did the slightly better camera on the iPhone 14 Pro versus the regular 14 change my life? Absolutely not. I'm not a professional photographer. My photos still looked like someone who doesn't know what they're doing took them, just with marginally better resolution. Was I happier with the new watch that tracked my sleep patterns? Not enough to justify spending $400 for data telling me what I already knew. I sleep poorly and check my phone too much. I stopped upgrading entirely unless something breaks. Turns out phones last way longer when you're not constantly looking for excuses to replace them. My current phone is 2 years old and works perfectly fine. I've saved roughly $1,500 by simply not buying things I didn't need. Sales are the biggest psychological trap, and I fell for it constantly. That dress I bought because it was 70% off? Didn't need it. Wouldn't have bought it at full price. But somehow getting it on sale felt like saving money rather than spending it. Same with those boots, and that jacket, and approximately 17 other items currently sitting in my closet with tags still attached. Here's the truth about sales. If you buy something you don't need because it's discounted, you haven't saved 30%. You've spent 70% you wouldn't have otherwise spent. That's not savings. That's marketing convincing you that spending money is financially responsible. I made a rule. If I wouldn't buy it at full price, I don't buy it on sale. Period. This single principle has probably saved me thousands annually because it forces me to evaluate whether I actually want something or just want the feeling of getting a deal. Investments I don't understand was another expensive lesson. I put money into things because financial advisors recommended them or friends said they were good opportunities. Cryptocurrency I couldn't explain. Stocks in companies I'd never researched. A timeshare presentation I somehow got roped into. If you can't explain an investment in simple terms, you shouldn't be putting your money into it. Doesn't matter how credible the person suggesting it seems. Doesn't matter how good the opportunity sounds. If you don't understand it, you're gambling, not investing. The last thing I stopped buying was obligatory holiday gifts. Every year, I'd spend hundreds on presents for people who didn't need anything. They'd spend money on gifts I didn't need. We'd exchange things neither of us wanted, smile politely, and feel relieved when it was over. I started having honest conversations with friends and family about this. Suggested we skip the gift exchange entirely or set a $20 limit and make it actually thoughtful rather than expensive. Some people were relieved, others thought I was being cheap. The ones who thought I was cheap aren't the ones I'm close with anyway. Point is, most of us are spending money on obligations we've never questioned. Birthday presents for acquaintances, wedding gifts for coworkers, baby shower contributions for people we barely know. It adds up to hundreds, sometimes thousands annually, all because we're afraid of seeming rude. What I've learned is that building wealth isn't about one dramatic change. It's about examining every automatic expense and asking whether it's actually serving you. Most aren't. Most are just things you started doing at some point and never stopped to reconsider. The money I've redirected from all these small changes now goes toward investments that actually grow. Index funds, retirement accounts, building an emergency fund that means I'm not one car repair away from financial panic. That shift from mindless spending to intentional saving is the difference between staying broke and building actual financial security. You don't have to cut everything. You just have to be honest about what genuinely adds value to your life versus what you're doing because you think you're supposed to. Looking back at everything I changed, the total adds up to over $20,000 annually that I was spending without thinking. $20,000. That's not a small amount. That's a down payment on a house. A year of maxed out retirement contributions. The difference between feeling financially stressed and actually having options. None of these changes required me to become some extreme minimalist living in a van. I still go out to eat, just less frequently and more intentionally. I still buy clothes, just better ones that last. I still enjoy coffee, just not $7 lattes 5 days a week. The quality of my life didn't decrease. If anything, it improved because I'm not constantly stressed about money anymore. The uncomfortable truth is that most of us aren't broke because we don't earn enough. We're broke because we spend everything we earn on things that don't matter. We've been sold this idea that we,